like I said, I know that there was a lot of decentralization and a lot of breakups of the big companies definitely in the fields of radio and television back in the day, and even to some degree telephones and things of that nature. So it's happened in other industries before, but I was just wondering, do you think that that's what's going to happen with the internet industry? Because right now, like you said, there's primarily, I would argue, maybe 4 or 5, if that many, major players, and they kind of like have a habit of eating up the others. So I think that there's been some people that are within the power structures of politics and things and social justice and things of that nature that are looking to try to find ways to break them up, maybe have them not have as much of the power as they currently have. So as a student of this, I was wondering what some of your thoughts are.
Well, as an economist, I look at it and I say, supply and demand. So, those businesses are, providing products and services for which there is either no viable alternative or it's a significantly inferior alternative in today's marketplace. And the other part, as I look at it as a businessman and technologist, one of the things that we can see when we look at these companies is, unlike Bell Labs that we split up many years ago, or when there was the breakup of some of the media organizations, there was a tremendous barrier of entry to anyone coming into that market because they were so strong and so powerful, and they controlled the resources in a way a lot like utilities. And we have seen a growth of competition through deregulation in the utilities, and in part that I think was a big part of the media. When we look at this from the internet companies, 2 things. Number one, they are being disrupted as well. So, it was Netflix owned, the whole market post-Blockbuster, but now how many different services are there? And are they able to charge what they would have charged if they were still, in that space? So, there's now an access to create a new market and disrupt by changing the customer experience that, it's going to be tough, but there is no barrier like we had before. So from a regulatory perspective, it seems unlikely that there would be a real benefit in breaking that up. Practically speaking, when we look at Google, the main company doesn't even go by Google anymore. We call it that for convenience, but it's Alphabet, right? And they did that because it's so many small companies. So what is it that you're going to break up then? When there are some together, they tend to have either this synergy between them, or it's in an area that nobody else, can or would or has played in. So, when we look at, how can we significantly improve healthcare to folks? Well, until a company like Google came along, there really weren't very many folks that had the capability, and those that had the capability, didn't really have a strong motive to do that. So now that the world has changed, we are seeing those kinds of things come together, and the visibility and relative transparency, just because there is so much exchange of information, that companies can't behave the way they have in the past, that they would not have been proud of to put on the front cover. Now this concept of doing the right thing, of corporate good, of corporate sponsorship, of a much kinder, gentler kind of place, I think that actually works now, and we're seeing that it's not just a fad, it's not just something that we want to do because it feels good, but we're also going to do it because it works well, and it's that authenticity rings through, and that's what resonates with folks.
Now, could you explain that tag? Because I've heard artistic people use that tag, too. They're usually using it as a way to talk about some of the provocative artwork that they're putting out. But one of your taglines is, will you be the disruptor or the disrupted? So when you use that term, how are you meaning it, and what are you calling the people that are either being disruptors or those that are disrupting the system? So how are you phrasing this, and how is it in your context when you're using these words?
we're seeing this in every single business. So, it may be, for example, that I'll take a real world example. My girlfriend makes she sews caps, surgical caps for doctors and nurses and surgical technicians who are in surgery all day. They have to wear all of the hospital garb, the scrubs and smocks and everything, and there's no way for them to, kind of express themselves. And so she makes these wonderful little hats. They're not little, they're beautiful hats. It's the one thing that doctors and nurses and scrub techs can use to express themselves. And she sells these hats on Etsy, and she sells them to folks all over the world. All of these, medical professionals who, in many, many cases are grossly underpaid. They provide services, that we may even take for granted. But we know that in our moment of need, that there are doctors and nurses and other medical professionals who will take care of us. And these are real people that live real lives, go to work just like we do. And so having the ability to have one little thing in their life in that day that they can express, hey, this is March Madness. I'm going to wear my team's colors. I don't care how they're doing, as a part of their life. She can now make and sell these, to folks that are in Egypt, to folks that are in Australia, folks that are all over the world. She's even delivered some through diplomatic pouches, into organizations. So, she's an immigrant from Russia who made it on her own, really pulled herself up, and now she has this thriving business where she has this artistic, flow of her. She buys, fabric literally in 1 yard lots, hand cuts, hand sews every one of these hats with love. And, she's competing with companies that have been established in the marketplace for years, and she's going toe-to-toe. And I tell you what, she's doing pretty darn good. I'm really proud of her. And so, that's how we can do this with folks and really have that capability.
Yeah, so she's doing a good job, it sounds like, of disrupting things and things of that nature. But just out of curiosity, and I'm going to change the topic just a little bit, you are a U.S. Army veteran. I did see that in your background as well. So how has that played into what you have learned with this whole business that you've got, with the digital business and everything? I'm imagining that some of the things you learned in the Army, you're bringing into this whole concept of what you're doing in the business world, because a lot of Army life, I've got cousins that are in the military. A lot of what the same kind of principles that you're teaching to just common folks are principles that you probably had to learn when you were in the military.
That's exactly right. And we all are a product of our experiences and what we've done. And, when I was in the Army, I was very fortunate. I had some great assignments. In particular, I learned some lessons as a logistics officer in the 4th Infantry Division. We learned ways to, provide the right kind of service to folks, and being able to use the technology that we had available to us to do our jobs better and smarter. And we have absolutely applied that, just like in every MBA program. Those folks are going to read The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and study other military, minds and tactics and strategies. And we absolutely apply those to our business and in this book.
Good. And folks want to get in touch with you to learn more about what you're doing. And I think we have another caller, and I did expect at least one or two more to call in and everything. But
sure.
If folks want to get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing and the different lessons that you're teaching to the folks in the business world, how's the best way for folks to reach you?
The best way is to come to our website, and there's so much there, so many different opportunities. But standingonshoulders.us, we really want to recognize that we stand on the shoulders of many people that have come before us, and we're building on what they have learned and taught us, and it's our turn to do that. So standingonshoulders.us. It's the information about the book, and it also gives you the ability to contact I or my co-author directly. We'll be happy to help any way we can.
And who are some of the shoulders that you feel that you have stood on? Because I'm imagining there are some business leaders. You definitely mentioned the Gates, but I imagine there are some other business leaders that you admire and that you feel that you're standing on their shoulders as you continue this very important work that you're doing.
Absolutely. This builds on the work of Deming and the work that he did in post-World War II Japan that built and became the lean movement. We've built on the agile movement, the technologists who in 2001, came up with a way that was better to develop and deliver software than the way we were doing it before. We built on the work of Gene Kim, who actually wrote the foreword on the book for us, who is, I look at him as the godfather of the DevOps movement. He wrote the book, The Phoenix Project, which really got, a lot of what's happening in the technology space and in the business space together and really bridged that gap. So, we're standing on their shoulders. Actually, on LinkedIn, I have a picture of the books. Carmen and I both worked for a guy named Tom Pater, who is a published author, the Lean IT Field Guide. We looked at, folks like John Willis and Gene Kim, who wrote the DevOps Handbook. And one of my current favorites, there's a guy named Mick Kirsten, who's the CEO of TaskTop, wrote a book, Project to Product. And, that really helps look at how we need to adjust our organizations to focus on what we're delivering to our customers. There are so many wonderful shoulders that we're seeing. In fact, we have more than 140 footnotes in the book. So anything that is, you say, hey, that's really interesting, you can either come to our website. We've got additional information on our website, and we're adding more all the time, and through our blog. But all of that comes through our website, and you can also connect on LinkedIn, and we add more content there.
All right, sounds great. And I definitely want you to stay on the line. I want to might even bring you back in with the conversation as we continue and everything. I was also admiring the fact, because my dad was one, and he's still living, but he's not doing that because of back injuries, that you were into that whole scuba diving thing. I unfortunately can't even swim, so me and scuba diving will not be happening anytime soon. But I do admire those of you that are able to go in and explore the depths of the ocean and see all the wonders that are down there, because that's like a whole nother, actually, as far as I can tell, it's almost like a whole nother planet that exists down there. Yes, we love it. My son and I were actually diving here, even in Ohio, yesterday. But thank you so much for your graciousness and hosting, and I'm happy to sit around and maybe we can chat a little bit more. But I'm very eager to listen. Thank you. Sounds good. And yes, definitely stick around, and we'll bring in the next guest as well. And one quick other thing, I'm not going to hold it against you that you went to Xavier, because I am a Marquette graduate, and that is one of our Big East rivals now. Absolutely. Yep, we fight hard but love each other at the same time. Exactly. Dean, who do we have on the line?
We have a call from Mexico coming in just
Are you enjoying the smoothest conversation in podcasting? Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. Hi, this is DJ Smooth Jazz, syndicated radio host and co-owner of Portfolio Group LLC, your smooth jazz lifestyle and entertainment group with offices in Durham, North Carolina. Portfolio Group LLC specializes in promoting the lifestyle of smooth jazz listeners with the promotion of smooth jazz events and the distribution of African American-owned wines. For more information, portfoliogroupllc.com, or you can swing by my secondary site, djsmoothjazz.com. Now back to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
And we're back. And caller, you are on the line. Welcome this evening to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark.
Hello, it's Kerra. Can you hear me?
Hey, Kerra. Sure I can hear you. How are you doing, Kerra?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm so glad that we were able to get you on the line. Kerra is a writer out of the Mexico area, but she's just doing some amazing work. One of the things that you're doing is, I remember correctly, you're dealing with a film that is very important to some of the work that Dean does, because Dean works in the correction system, and you're actually trying to find a way that we can even deal with restorative justice. So if you'll tell us a little bit about that project and just about your filmmaking in general.
Wow, okay. My project is tentatively called Restorative Detroit, and what we're doing is we're looking at citizen-led efforts to transform the culture and institutions of Detroit through restorative practices are a series of protocols ranging from questions that you can ask all the way to formal conferences whose aim is to restore relationships, heal harm, and build social capital. So we're starting in Detroit